Hello everyone, how are you today? My name is Raluca Sandu and today I want to discuss with you about my new book, which is called The Purpose of Life and the A.D.A.T Theory, How to Overcome Your Circumstances Through Art. Now, before I go into telling you more about what's this book about, I would like to read for you a few chapters so you can vividly see and for real see what's this book about. And then I will try to explain to you a little more about it. So I will read starting with the introduction. In the introduction, sorry, I'm nervous. I mentioned that this book has arisen from the need to make sense of the difficult circumstances I went through, and by growing up in a religious and Christian context, my searches alternated between people with mixed studies, both in theological field and in the field of therapies, but also clergymen. In this way, I found my answers and approached myself to what is known as patristic psychology. Patristic psychology, or orthodox psychotherapy, as the term is more commonly encountered, is a science that has not yet been sufficiently explored in Romania, and it involves, on one hand, the use of specific psychotherapy techniques, and on the other hand, the connection of these techniques with the teachings of the Holy Fathers, but without mixing them improperly. Although in this book there are no direct references to them, these aspects are very clearly defined and well interconnected in the specialized literature at authors like Dimitrie Andreev or others like Simon Cryopoulos, Zorin Constantin, or Nicholas Ludovicus. However, the volume approaches this aspect in a subtle way, making it accessible to a wide and diverse public in its beliefs, preserving the essence defined by the existence of a spiritual plan of the world, towards which the individual tends natively. This plan is always at hand, but it can be deepened precisely through the work of our personal skills and talents, this being the way in which we can prevail in life, overcoming its specific challenges, while getting to know each other better as humans. In conclusion, I remind you that all of these aspects are interconnected through the A.D.A.T theory, awareness, decision, ability, and talent, without whose awareness any attempt to succeed tends to be far more difficult. This is the introduction of the book. Now, as I said in the book, in the introduction, even though it has, let's say, a Christian foundation, the book is accessible and is, let's say, suitable for every person, no matter the faith they come from or the spiritual view they have. It has information and lessons that are based on my own experience and that I gladly wanted to share with you guys because I believe in the concept of paying it forward. I believe how important it is to learn from each other and to discover the different ways that we can reach similar lessons, let's say. And I will move forward with the first chapter. And I will try to mention the most important aspects just to make you curious and get the book from Amazon. In the first chapter, I talk about the concept of beauty. This is how it looks. Okay, so in the concept of beauty, I discuss about the fact that, it's not about the external beauty, but the inner beauty that makes us beautiful people. Because many times we encountered maybe people that were beautiful on the outside, but on the inside, they weren't as pleasant and educated and warm and like the kind-hearted human beings that we all wish to be. So my thought on this is that to be a beautiful person, you mainly have to focus on one or few things. On the background that you have, so you can try to heal it, and on the decisions that we make. So the key concepts here for going down such a path are the power of will and the power of decision. Once we are aware about the way our past affects our future and our present, we can decide, and it's very important to focus on this aspect, on our decision about certain things, not let them like, okay, so my past, I'm gonna do that and this. No, actually it has to be a decision, a very firm decision on how we want us to transform in the future, how we want to build ourselves and the person that we are, and how we can use those lessons from the past to be our very best, let's say. And then to make all this, let's say, possible and real, I thought that there are a few things like education, right? Education, curiosity, kindness, awareness. Fifth is spirituality, forgiveness, compassion, active listening, humbleness, presence. So these are the 10 main aspects that we should focus on. For example, when talking about education, no matter how poor, badly treated, hated, or unloved you were during your childhood, never let yourself believe you can't have the money, the time, or the capacity to educate yourself. Or to educate yourself, yes. Education is a lifelong learning process. Reach out to a teacher, a friend, or an acquaintance, someone you may or may not know directly, but who you think they could help you. Learn to accept the help of others. Learn to accept and receive things that may benefit you at a personal level, whether be now or in the future. The main positive effect of education is not only meeting amazing people, but also gaining privilege. Have you ever wondered why you always get stuck with the same people, same problems over and over again, when you hang out with the same low-value people, actually? So I'm gonna read this again. Sorry. So the main positive effect of education is not only meeting amazing people, but also gaining privilege. Have you ever wondered why you always get stuck with the same problems over and over again when you hang out with the same low-value people? When you aim for nothing, you get nothing in return. And I'm not the first person to assert this aspect. If you keep your expectations low, you end up in low-quality situations that often involve gossip, revenge, envy, and people that want to apply intentional harm. Very few people know how to detach from their wounds and personal background by themselves and behave properly from the perspective of their good human essence. And that is why, with the help of proper education, we can become the human beings we are meant to be based on our creative potential. Most people get lost in bad habits, such as smoking, drinking, drugs, gossiping, and frequently changing partners. They compromise their better selves inside false friendships and in acts of hatred or cheating. Yet they think they are kind just because they say thank you and you're welcome. The truth is, this is not enough. Once you open your eyes and understand where you stand, changing your context is just a matter of time and will. So, my dears, what I would add here is that I've seen in a video I think it was a video that Katie Morton made. I highly recommend her to watch her videos. She said something around the fact that once you start to understand and see certain things, it's difficult to unsee them, right? So, but you can choose to unsee them, but of course it's not healthy on the long run. So once you try to understand things and read books and educate yourself on certain topics and on certain aspects that regard your own life and your own lessons and what happens to you, it's hard to not see those things anymore. And it's hard to continue doing things that you know are bad for you. This means that most people that are stuck in difficult situations or in sufferings or in whatever situation that still harms them lack two things. First is the capacity or the information, the education necessary to help them see the bad things that are happening to them. And if by any chance they see those things and they know on at least on a surface level, it's hard for them to gain the power of will to pull themselves out of that situation. So in such a context, specialized help is deeply needed. Or if it's not a specialized help, at least a best friend, at least a spiritual guide like a priest or a mentor, if you want, a coach, someone or a figure of authority, let's say, that is capable to make you think, at least to make you think and move emotionally towards the right decision. Okay, that's why education, directly or not, right? It's very important, and it makes us, it builds up our awareness, our focus, and our let's say our capacity to decide and to do the right thing for ourselves. Then we have curiosity. Curiosity says this: being curious can be tricky sometimes. It's in our genes to be curious about the world around us. We've been this way ever since we were kids. The problem is that in time we become more curious about the bad things rather than the good ones. We should avoid thinking about what it would be like engaging in the bad aspects of life and wonder more about our engagement in the good ones. Some questions we could ask ourselves are the following. What if I were to visit a new country? What if I find something I've always enjoyed doing and also find the people with the same hobby? What if I glance inside myself honestly and openly? What if I glance inside myself honestly and openly examine what could actually make a positive difference in my life and start acting in that direction? This is the kind of curiosity I'm talking about, the one that is always willing to learn new things and make a positive difference in your existence. The higher aim is to chase perspectives rather than moments. So, as I said here, curiosity is good, but it has to be oriented in the right direction. Because if we are curious about let's say smoking, drinking, partying, doing things that we think externalizes our pain or our suffering in some way, it's just a trap. It's just a trap that will actually make us go deeper in the pain. Because, if you take a drug of any kind, it just puts you to sleep, let's say. It puts your consciousness to sleep for a while. And once you wake up in the same problems or with more problems that add up to the fact that you consumed certain drugs or certain things that put you to sleep, and now you also feel guilty because you put yourself to sleep intentionally, and those old problems still aren't fixed and are still there and are still bothering you and make your soul ill in different ways. Then we have kindness. We all know that being a good person is something that has always been over-promoted around the world. However, what we may not understood is that, what we may have not understood is that, like all the skills and competences we tend to develop through life, kindness is also something that needs to be practiced as often as possible in order to become, in time, those proper individuals we all strive for. Practicing kindness often involves getting out of our comfort zones, because it requires being nice to people you may not really like. Yet that is where the individual adventure really begins. You learn to differentiate between what someone does from what someone is, once you learn to read them between the lines of their personal background. So, this aspect of kindness is not an invitation to hypocrisy. I want to make that clear. The aspect of kindness is an invitation to, let's say, try to analyze better a situation and live and do things more intentionally. That means that, for example, if I go out, right? I'm on the street walking and I see some poor people. My focus on that particular situation shouldn't be the fact that, oh, look at those homeless people, they should go to work, they have hands and they have legs and they can walk and they can do things, and why aren't they working? All that thing that we all do, right? And our focus instead should be, okay, this is an opportunity for me to manifest the kindness I have inside. So this opportunity brings me closer to the fact of having, let's say, some white dots, how should I say this, or some plus points, if you want, up there, no matter what you believe or not to be up there. It's important to have those plus points, but not in a selfish way, I'm doing good so I could increase my chances to, no, just to try to do those things and that kindness intentionally, and see it as an opportunity for us to manifest the good people that we wish to be and that we know that we are deep down. And regarding the fact that we should try to be nice to people that probably we don't like. Now, I will not this in a corporate situation or a work situation, work environment, or school environment in general, because we tend to respond, we tend to react to a reaction, and it becomes like, I don't know, a never-ending, not a give and take, but it's like a never-ending cycle of reactions, you know. And even if someone does you a bad thing, you can try to breathe and try to understand, okay, where does this person come from? Okay, well, they come from that cycle of reaction and reaction and reaction and reactiveness and so on, because if they did something to me, someone did something to them, and they are responding based on what other people mostly did to them. Then to the present moment, like also Gabor Mate said, right? We react at the past, not at the present moment. So then you have this person in front of you that reacted to you or did something to you. So they didn't did it to you. They actually did it as a manifestation of their frustration. And once you see things like that, you can push the brake, let's say. You can push the brake on your own reaction, observe and say, okay, I see where you're coming from. You're right. Let let me see if I don't know, I can fix this for you, or how would you like me to do things better? But careful to not confuse this with people pleasing. You have to really be able to see where that person is coming from to do that. It takes practice, okay? So see their background, see their state of mind in that day, ask them how their day went, and see if something particular happened. And then you can say, oh, so I see you're mad because this and that happened to you. And now I can understand that what I did maybe triggered you some way. That wasn't my intention. Look, I did this because of this. Now, of course, we cannot have these conversations always with everyone. It's true, but we can at least try in our close environment with our friends, with our family. And then when we go further in public, let's say, we have this practice that we did with our friends and family, and then we can see better our reaction and their reaction, and from where the other person comes from emotionally, and block our reaction, or actually not necessarily block it, but transform it in an action, in an assertive message that tells the other person, okay, I see you, and this is what I decided to do by seeing where your reaction comes from. So that this would be the, let's say, background message that our action and our assertiveness should say. But again, everything happens with practice. Then I discuss here about awareness. Now, awareness in our context means accepting the present, as I said earlier. It's realizing where you stand in the present moment, what you can really do, and therefore you can actually be and therefore where you can actually be emotionally, okay? In short term, sounds like having a perspective. Not being aware of these things holds the risk of not asking for more in life. Deep inside, you may think you're not worth it or that you're incapable of doing anything. Hence, you live for the moment and see yourself only through material things, ignoring the fact that these things are only elevators towards higher aims, and that what you own doesn't really define who you are. If it does, you miss the whole point in life. If you allow your car or the dimensions of your house to define you, this means you haven't filled your mind and soul with the kind of knowledge that goes beyond that. Personally, I'm a true believer in the idea that our spiritual knowledge, fulfillment, and the necessity of being at peace with ourselves and the world, things we should permanently work on, they are the only aspect remaining after that. Reaching a social standard based only on material possessions before having passed to a self-development process can be your finish line rather than the elevator that takes you to the next level. You need to learn to see things in perspective and develop the right growth mindset. At a low social level, within a wrong fixed mindset, what you have is what you are. Unfortunately, that is how our society works somehow, but the secret is not in identifying yourself with your possessions, but in imagining what would you do if tomorrow you woke up having nothing. Would you have the knowledge and the strength to start all over again? I'm going to go further. Okay, spirituality. I truly believe that nowadays denying there is a God above us is more than ever a matter of choice. Today, when most of us have every source of information at our disposal, and when there is so much potential for research only a few clicks away, we should definitely take the blame for not having the will to reach it. Faith and spirituality may be different things, but they do go together. In the end, having faith is having hope and knowing that Even in your darkest times, when you have reached your human limitations, there is still something you can rely on for things to end up just fine. In the absence of an authentic connection with a form of spirituality, people will always seek for a substitute. Such perspectives are also strongly supported by Richard Hitler or Hitler, sorry, in 93, who acknowledges the repression of spirituality also creates an extremely anxious society and anxious individuals. So, the thing is that we as human beings are very limited, you know, and the only way to go beyond that limit is to connect ourselves to a higher form, let's say, to let's say in the most common environment or spiritual environment is called energy, right? It's a higher form of energy. It's a spiritual form, a higher conscious, if you want. In this Christian environment or context, we have a name for it. We call it God, because we like to identify ourselves with the image of God. And we can only do this by firstly naming it as he wanted to be named, right, through the Christian writings, and to the image that he offered us in the Christian environment. Because of this, someone that is not connected to a higher form, to this higher form of consciousness, to God, kind of accepts too much their own limitations and starts believing that things are impossible, that some things are impossible. Most things are not impossible if we learn to connect ourselves to that higher form of consciousness called God. And once we are connected to Him, we can overcome things that for us as limited human beings are of course impossible. And how we can do that? For example, if we have a problem of a certain type, we can meet someone by chance, we have a conversation with them, and we find a solution or a new direction to our issue. If, for example, we lost the bus, we can think, oh, I lost the bus, what a tragedy, look what happened, and we can start to stress out over these things and think that it's everything on us and everything moves because of the way we do things and things like that, which is partially true. But if we think about it this other way, like, okay, I lost the bus, and then you decide, okay, I'm gonna walk, and walking you meet someone you haven't seen in a while, or walking towards the other station, you see a car accident and you're like, oh my gosh, I could have been in that bus and I wasn't. That was not by chance, you know. You could have been in that bus and suffer, let's say, a moment of panic that might have marked you throughout your whole life, and a sort of trauma would have been inside and many other problems, but you weren't in the bus. So that was not by chance, you know, the fact that you were not in the bus. So that's why I'm saying, connect yourself and try to accept that there is someone there that takes care of you. And we are not here by chance. We are not here by means of fate and just to work, pay bills, and die. We are here to be light, to become light, to give light forward, to do good, to practice kindness and to discover our kind self, that kind self that was very beaten up, let's say, and closed up because of our traumas and because of our problems and struggles in life, which all of us have. There's no person on this world that doesn't have a certain type of struggle, but that's not meant to victimize us. That's not meant to make us and transform us in victims of fate. But it's there to teach us something and to help us see the lesson in it. When we focus and shift everything on seeing the lesson in what happened, that changes everything. And we overcome our limits, and we can go beyond our pain. And that for me is the essence of life. Okay. Then I have forgiveness, which says that accepting pain as a crucial part of the existence will make the challenge less difficult than it seems, as I said, especially because our mind always tries to defend us from whatever the danger may be, keeping us stuck in the fight or flight mode, a state of mind that can make us tired, overwhelmed, and stressed all the time. Basically, it devours our inner peace. Being stuck in the past experiences can cost us our peace and our present moment, right? So, as I said here, forgiveness is very important and also very hard to reach. And because we are stuck in the fight or flight symptoms or state of mind, we can be like, oh no, this person did something against me, they wanted to hurt me intentionally. And honestly, most of us don't have the slightest idea that about what we are doing. Yes, there are bad people in the world, or let's say bad behaved people that act on their wounds, that are not self-aware of what they are doing. But most of us, I don't know, most of us are really blind, honestly, precisely because we live through our wounds, we live through the pain that we had, and we haven't learned and haven't accepted this mechanism of looking at the lesson and overcoming the shame and the hurt and the trauma and everything that is down there inside us. And that's why I'm suggesting to try to look more in the background of a person and see what happened to them, because seeing what happened to them can help us be more compassionate somehow, not codependent and not people pleasing and not justifying behavior intention, right? Not justifying behavior because there is a decision in every behavior that someone does, but at least to be more compassionate. And the first person we need to be compassionate with ourselves, right? And being compassionate with ourselves means to learn to not react to other people's reactions, and learn to be assertive and learn to detach ourselves from their story. And that might help us to arrive and reach the concept of forgiveness at some point in our lives, because it doesn't happen like that. Of course, it's a process. Then we have compassion, which I mentioned a little bit. Then we have active listening, humbleness, and presence. Regarding active listening, there are many people who are thinking, oh my God, they always complain about this and that. They may be partially right, but when you are on your way to self-evolution, complaining about anything has to be your daily habits. You also need to understand that most people don't even care that much about their own development. That is why it is so important to learn how to actively listen. People never complain without any reason, but the reason they are doing is that they aren't yet able to see the possible solutions to their problems, but only the negative side of it. Oh, it's hard. It is hard to hear someone always complaining, but in the same way, try to see where that complaining comes from, and try maybe to guide them towards seeing things more clearly, or if not, just be there for them, as if you can and you have that energy, because sometimes just listening to someone makes a difference in their day. Not all complaining is bad complaining. Sometimes we do have problems and we have issues of different sorts, and the weight of, or let's say the emotional weight of all our problems, it is very heavy, and it's not easy to it's not easy to carry sometimes, especially for most people that are not connected to that higher energy and higher consciousness we call God, that I mentioned. So just being there for someone through their struggles and listening to them can really make a difference. And from time to time, when we have the energy to be there for other people and ourselves, it's important to also do that. And then we have humbleness, which I mentioned that this characteristic is not only about being beautiful on the inside, but also being noble. Truly noble people are never arrogant. They are humble, and there are somehow a light on their faces that shows they have learned a lesson. They have evolved and are at peace with themselves and their own life. Now, humbleness is not the fact or the concept of do whatever you want to me because I deserve bad things. And it's also not the fact of, okay, I shouldn't do more because it's what I have now is good for me. The humbleness comes from a place of, how should I say, gratefulness. Okay, humbleness comes from gratefulness. Imagine that most people don't even wake up in the morning. Thank you for waking up in the morning. Be grateful for waking up in the morning. Really, most people don't have water. Most people don't have a lot of things. Just when you wake up first thing in the morning, say a small prayer, a small thought like, thank you for waking me up in the morning. I'm so glad for the life that I have. I'm so grateful for, I know, my family, my job, my everything. Learn to thank and learn to be thankful. Or at least if you're too sleepy in the morning, which I am a bit, during your day, thank you God for this lunch. Or just, I'm grateful for this lunch. I'm so grateful for all that I have. I'm grateful for the possibility to have lunch with a colleague. Or I'm grateful for the possibility to have lunch by myself because I can recharge and be in a better place emotionally for the afternoon. There are tons of things we could be grateful for, but we should be intentional with that, okay? And that's how humbleness is built. And then we have presence. And then, yes, we have presence. Presence is about, it's connected to gratefulness, but it's about being there, paying attention to other people's feelings and learning to listen from others' experience without having to make the same mistakes in the future. Okay, so being present does not only involve being present just for the other person, to listen to them, to make them feel good. Presence helps us too, because we can learn from their problems, and we can learn what not to do. And as an example to this, for example, I had many women around me along the years that somehow told me stories about how they went back home, and this was a bad idea to move back with their parents from different because of different situation and health problems, and how this had a bad impact on their life. And being present while listening in their stories helped me, for example, avoid this decision and do my best to be independent, move by myself, or at least by myself, almost by myself, because I have flatmates, but at least try to detach somehow, because as adults and as the adults we want to be, we need our own personal space. And that personal space sometimes is also mentally. It's not necessarily about the physical space, it's about the mental space that the physical space creates, you know? Because there is that saying in the business culture and business coaching aspect that says, okay, you are the result of the 5 people around you, something like that. And that's completely true. If those 5 people around you include your parents, which are 1 or 2 of them based on the case, add some brothers or sisters and you have 4 people, and maybe a best friend or a colleague that's close to you and you have 5 people. The mindset those people share with you and the energy, I don't know, how much they pressure you on certain things willingly or not, how much they tell you what to do, or how much they try to get involved in your life because of the lack of limits that most of us have. All these influences you and impact you on a very deep level that we are aware about only at 40 or 50 years or beyond, and we think, oh, okay, if I would have done that, if I would have done this differently, if I would have moved, if I would have stopped talking with that friend that got, I don't know, such bad behavior or treated me so badly, the outcome might have been different. So it's not about, you know, moving out or just distancing yourself through limits at least. It's not about just the physical space. It's about the fact that the physical space increases the mental space and gives you time to breathe, gives you time to see who you are for real, to know yourself, to make a routine for yourself. That includes maybe meditation or prayer or reading or writing your feelings down, or I don't know, do things, build a habit, a certain type of habit that builds you up, you know, and that helps you use that mental space that you created to be more healthy, as emotionally healthy as a person. Okay, so that's my take for today. That's the first chapter of the book, The Purpose of Life, and the A.D.A.T Theory, which comes from awareness, decision, ability, and talent. The whole concept of the book is to try to build ourselves up and go above our circumstances and our traumas and difficulties through a form of art or personal ability that we have, that can become from a hobby or that can take us from a hobby to a job, or at least from a hobby to a second income, maybe, that we build in time, or maybe a business or so on. Okay. Every end of the chapter of a chapter is followed by a quote from the chapter that will come, that will follow, and the chapter that follows, the quote for the chapter that follows here is I'm not interested in the usual meaning of wellness and fulfillment. I'm interested in the inner balance, the one that will take you several steps down the road of self-development towards a growth mindset that will make you the kind of person people can be content with. Okay? Okay, and I'll leave you with that thought. See you in the next video. And you can find the book on Amazon on the link I will place in the description. Have a great and peaceful day. Goodbye.